One of my favorite video game franchises of all time is Uncharted, and after a long string of development hell, we finally have the Uncharted movie hitting theaters this week. Tons of different directors, tons of different actors, everyone has been mixed around and involved with this movie, and now we have the product. And while I have many thoughts, I overall left the movie having some fun, but overall feeling pretty frustrated by it all, and I really just left wanting to play the games again and just thinking how the movie should have been better. What's going on, buddy? Welcome back to a brand new movie review. Today we're going to be discussing Uncharted, directed by Ruben Fleischer, and of course starring the likes of Tom Holland, Mark Wahlberg, Sophia Ali, Antonio Banderas, and Tati Gabriella. And this is about street-smart Nathan Drake, who's recruited by a seasoned treasure hunter, Victor Sully Sullivan, to recover a fortune amassed by Ferdinand Magellan and lost 500 years by the House of Moncada. Now, once again, I love the video game franchise. If you've never played the video game franchise, you absolutely should treat yourself to it. They're pretty short games to a certain degree, but they are absolutely a blast and a pretty emotional journey as you get down to the final one. And I've been pretty excited. Like, playing the games, it looks like it would translate perfectly over into a movie, and it's always been baffling to me on how this movie has been stuck in development hell, because in a sense, it's Indiana Jones with a... Yeah, no, it's literally Indiana Jones in a sense. It has its own charm and wit to it that the games really embody that, and it just feels like it would be such a perfect translation over to the movies. And like I mentioned, I had fun with this movie, and in fact, I took a friend who has never even played Uncharted before, and he had fun as well, liked it a little bit more than me, actually a lot more than me, but he still had his issues. And I have a lot of mine. I'm frustrated by a little different things, but I'm going to review this movie in two different ways. One, as someone who loves the video games, but also someone who just loves movies and wants the best from his action-adventure franchises. Which clearly, watching this movie, you can totally tell they definitely want to bring about a new franchise into Sony's wheelhouse, but it also kind of seems like a commercial to just make you go buy Uncharted so you can see what the hype is all about if you've never played it, and if you haven't played it in a while, you might actually want to dive back into it now. Of course, before we get any further into this review, if you guys love talking movies, or in general just love talking video games as well, or any sort of geeky content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, because I also love talking all that, and I do it over here on a daily basis. And I also want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section, so leave a comment. Are you guys fans of the Uncharted games? Are you a fan of this movie? Do you like this movie? I'll also be ranking all the Uncharted games over at Critics Play Games, our video game channel. You can find that link down below as well. Of course, Uncharted the movie. Let's start with my pros, because I'm all about film appreciation. One of the pros I gotta give the movie is the fact that this movie, it's fun. Some of the action set pieces, while very much it's kind of reminiscing and taken from the best of the Uncharted set pieces that they have, while not as thrilling as those could possibly be since you're actually in the moment playing them, there's some fun in here to be had. I mean, the whole cargo ship sequence that you see in the trailer, it's probably the best sequence in the entire movie, but overall, I enjoyed it, and I was actually kind of surprised by that. There's also this one with these giant flying ships that I was actually pretty engaged with. I actually think the third act is very fun. And the whole entire puzzle sequences and the adventure that you have along here, it is fun to kind of see where it could possibly go next. That's kind of the elements of Uncharted that I actually think they got right. While I maybe would have liked them to not have stuck too much to the games and actually kind of done its own thing when it comes down to the story being told, and as well as some of the set pieces, it was pretty cool to see them come to life on the big screen. The pro I want to give it is Tom Holland. When he was casted as Nathan Drake, I went, I think he's a little bit too young. And while this is a different interpretation of Nathan Drake, that is okay. I just wanted them to get the charm, the wit, and the personality of Drake down. And I overall think they did a pretty solid job of that, and a lot of that goes to Tom Holland's performance. I'm not going to write anything about the writing, because I do think the writing is a big major issue of this entire movie. Whether you are a film critic or in general just someone who wants to judge it by the games, there is an issue with the writing, and I do feel like with Tom Holland's character, while he is embodying Nathan Drake in a way that is different than the games, but still feels familiar and feels like video game fanatics, like people who love the Uncharted franchise can go, I like what Tom Holland's doing in this role, and I think he actually makes it work, and I could see him becoming the Nathan Drake that I know and love in later installments, per se, even in a sequel. As well as Sophia Ali, who plays Chloe Fraser in here, who Chloe is one of my favorite characters in the Uncharted franchise. She killed it. Loved Sophia in here, and I actually think out of all the characters, she was the one that had the writing that knew who Chloe was, and as well as the acting, all working with her. Tati Gabriella and Antonio Banderas are also great, and I had fun with them, even though they are not from the video games. The characters that they portray in here were cool. We'll talk about Mark Wahlberg when we get to my cons, because nothing against him, but I have some issues with his character, and there's a couple other things that center around that whole entire thing. That's where I actually need to start segueing over to my issues with this movie, because while, again, I had fun with the set pieces, I had fun with some of the Easter eggs they have in here, and there's a couple in here that I was like, I get what you're doing. The frustrating elements of this was a lot of the scripting moments, and before we talk about my cons, I want to talk about a mixed aspect, which is Ruben Fleischer. He is a fine director. I equivalent Ruben to a director that doesn't really have a style in Hollywood, but when he makes a movie, he will direct what is on that page of the script. Good, bad, horrible, whatever it may be, that is how he directs it. He doesn't have the censor style or even really knows how to bring to life a feverish, intensity to get you on edge of your seat. Even watching these action set pieces, while I was like, oh yeah, throw popcorn in my face and enjoy it, I was never on the edge of my seat. I knew how it was going to turn out, and there's that pacing that really needed to be in there, but I look at the script, and, I look at Ruben's, filmography, whether it's the Zombieland films he's done. Those are great movies, not because of his directing, but because of a script that was great. Venom is a very mixed movie, which most people hate. He directed the first one, and a lot of those issues were with the script, but he directed what was on the script. I always found that when Ruben was attached to this movie, again, nothing against him, I just never thought he was going to be the right way, especially when you had Sean Levy and Travis Knight at one point attached to this project. Where did that go? That's where I've been talking about it, is the script. That is my biggest issue with this movie. It feels like they had writers involved with this movie that just watched moments on YouTube of oh yeah, that's a cool moment. Oh yeah, that's a cool line from Nathan Drake. Let's write that in there. Oh, that's a cool moment with Sully, and just got the plot points. Not even the plot points, but the smallest points that you could only get from not playing the games, but just from watching clips on YouTube, or just studio execs telling you what needs to be in there. Oh, Sully at one point must have a mustache. Sully at one point must have a cigar. Nathan Drake at one point must say this or that, or they must have this line in here. It's like they missed almost every single one of those elements, and they just got the bare minimum of what it needed to be. And that's where this film really much lacks, is the personality that is Uncharted, that keeps it separated from other action-adventure thrillers or movies like The Mummy or Indiana Jones or whatever you say. You can put so many other ones out there, but it misses what keeps it different than those and keeps it from just being generic. Because the movie itself, a fun action-adventure movie that, again, has cool set pieces and some fun characters to follow along, but it never resembles that personality of the Uncharted games that I really needed it to be. In fact, the only time I ever felt that within this movie wasn't even the moments where they were trying to oh, hey, remember this moment from the games? No, it was Tom Holland acting his ass off to play Nathan Drake. That's when I really felt it. Again, people who have never played the Uncharted games and go into this are going to have a fun time. These issues I'm having, you probably won't even understand, or you might just think it's a generic action adventure, but that's my thing, is that I would encourage you to go play the game so you can see why it's so amazing. And I'm such a big advocate for hoping to God to have one big, awesome, amazing video game adaptation to a movie or TV show one day. I know we've had maybe some good ones, but we need that great one so people can understand, why are these games so great? If I showed my grandmother this movie, I don't think she would go, oh yeah, Uncharted, I can totally see why you see the video game's great. No, not at all. Like, she would be like, oh, that was fun. Like, that's fun. That's it. I don't get why you love the game so much. And that's where that frustration comes. Again, like, it feels like the script didn't understand the personality or the charm of what Uncharted is and just went by bare surface temple approaches to really much tackle into the characters of who they are and the set pieces. And that's what sucks. As well, I've been hinting around it. Mark Wahlberg is Sully. Never was a fan when he was casted. Went into this movie open-minded, and I still was not won over. And it has nothing to do with Mark Wahlberg's performance. I fully believe it happens to do with the writing. The writing does not understand who Victor Sullivan is. I still think they should have gone a little bit older with Victor Sullivan. But even then, while Mark Wahlberg does not look like him at all, he does not even act like Sully at all. And cool, if you want to do a new interpretation of Sully, that's fine. But don't make him exactly one for one as Nathan Drake. It's funny because, fun fact, if you didn't know, Mark Wahlberg was at one point supposed to play Nathan Drake, and then he got too old to play the character. In reality, he probably still could have played him. Really much seriously, there's nothing wrong with Wahlberg's performance in here. He's just playing Wahlberg. But Sully, one of my favorite characters from Uncharted, definitely needed more help here. It all centers back to the script, which frustrated me because it just never felt like it was going as deep as it should have been. And that's where I just go and look at this entire movie as a whole. Yeah, it's fun, but it's frustrating because it should have been better. If you've played the games, you understand that. If you've never played the games, you wouldn't. But I've played those games. I've played them multiple times. The adventures that I've had with them, the characters, the emotionality that I actually get intertwined with them. And there's that sense that you can make that the argument of, well, you're actually playing it. You're not just watching it. You could watch the set pieces, someone play it on YouTube, and still feel the exact same way. At one point, I did that to show one of my friends the game. I just wanted him to experience the story. And I do see the glimmers of hope in this movie. That if they were to get a more talented writer and a director in the next movie that kind of understands what Uncharted is, you can make a whole 180 here. You can make a new adventure that explores these characters in a new, refreshing way that still captures the charm of Uncharted than just pushing it aside to just be another generic action-adventure movie that we get here and there, but it lacked that personality, and that's what makes this movie frustrating. So, Uncharted. It's finally here. It's been in long development hell, and it wasn't terrible. It was just fine. Like, it's fine, it's fun, but it's also frustrating for video game fans. As someone who loves this franchise as a video game, I can't wait. I'm actually going to restart playing them right now. Like, I'm not joking. Like, that is what I was most excited about leaving that movie, was to go home, play the games again, because that is such an exciting adventure. I think Tom Holland is actually a really good Nathan Drake. That's what surprised me. Sophia is amazing as Chloe Fraser, and I wanted a lot more from the way that they wrote Sully. Again, nothing against Wahlberg. He just was not casted in the right role. But maybe if they gave it Sully better writing, it could have actually turned out to be good. I'm interested to see what they do next. They could turn this around in 180 if you get the talent involved to really understand what Uncharted is. But for here, it just again seemed very generic that I've seen so many times before. I didn't hate this movie. I really just thought it was fine and should have been better. So all that said, I'm going to give Uncharted a C. Very much mixed on this one. I saw the glimmers of hope here, and I'm curious to see if you guys also saw those glimmers. So let me know down below in the comment section, guys. Again, hit that like and subscribe button. Comment down below your guys' thoughts. Head on over to Sandwich on Films on how to see films, really. And of course, make sure to go check out that ranking on Critics Play Games coming out later this week. I'll also be including the movie in there as like a fun story thing at the end of that video. So it'll be fun to see your guys' thoughts on that ranking if you've played the games. But of course, until next time, stay classy.